Hey y'all, you groovy people. Bear with me here. I gotta admit, I got a bit of pride in my system. I'm Irish, so that's pretty par for the course. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that it's not easy for me to admit that I've made a mistake.
Sorry?
Yeah, woo, I did it.
But in this case, I'm really glad that Marvel proved me wrong. I totally thought that the Thunderbolts was gonna bomb. So much so that I took the time to trash the movie before it came out. And could you blame me? The movie consisted of D-list nobody Marvel characters that has a godlike character as their main antagonist. To me, that's a recipe for failure. But thankfully, the MCU surprised me in the best way possible. In this video, I'm gonna go over what I loved about the Thunderbolts, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So, you've been warned. Spoilers for Thunderbolts in case you haven't seen it. And please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics. You do not want to miss out on our awesome content. Now, I'll start off by saying this. Thunderbolts is not perfect. There's a few plot holes in the movie and everyone's character development isn't perfect. But it's a major improvement over the past couple of MCU projects that we got. And that's largely because Thunderbolts is not a narrative mess. Like or hate the Thunderbolts, it knows what it wants to be. The creators knew that it's a story about D-list Marvel characters on their mental health journeys. In my opinion, Captain America Brave New World largely suffered from not knowing what it wanted to be. It kind of felt like it wanted to be a sequel to The Incredible Hulk, and at other times it felt like it wanted to be a sequel of Captain America Winter Soldier. But unlike Brave New World, Thunderbolts has a solid identity. It knows that it has a lineup of characters that are deeply ashamed of their past and are desperate to redeem themselves. So yeah, hats off to the creatives for giving this film a solid identity. But what's really fantastic and underrated about this story is that it has a beginning, middle, and end. This might not sound like a big deal, but I love it when stories have this narrative structure. I totally thought Thunderbolts was going to be a narrative mess because I thought it was going to go over each character's backstory. But to its credit, the film didn't do that. There wasn't any forced exposition that got into each character's origin. Instead, as the story progressed, we learned more about each character through the interpersonal drama in the story. We learned more about Yelena Belova through her dream sequences, we learned that John Walker's family left him after Bucky let that slip to the group, and nobody asked Red Guardian about his origin, but thankfully nobody had to because he's got a really loud personality.
That's what they talk about!
Thunderbolts has a really nice narrative flow to it where each scene justifies the next scene. While it wasn't as action heavy as other Marvel movies, it didn't need to be. The story flowed nicely, there wasn't any endless exposition scenes, and the pacing of the movie was really great. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the villain. Technically, there was more than one villain in the movie. You can definitely make the argument that Val is the villain of the story. After all, if she didn't scheme so much, Robert Reynolds would not have become the Sentry and his alter, the Void. But either way, we have villains with depth that are operating in morally gray areas. Let's start with Bob. This dude came from a really dysfunctional family. As a consequence of his messed up childhood, he turned to substance abuse to ease his pain. This led him to the Sentry Project where, in his mind, he could get access to more drugs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounded like he had a few mental health issues. When he was going on about the high and low days that he had, it made me think he has bipolar disorder. His episodes of memory loss and his perception of reality being distorted sounded like schizophrenia-like symptoms, and his void alter can be interpreted as a symptom of dissociative identity disorder. Now, in most cases, it would have been distasteful to have a person struggling with mental health issues to be depicted as a villain. But in this story, he has a lot of redemptive qualities. After all, at the beginning of the movie, he made the sacrifice play and tried to help Ghost, John Walker, and Yelena Belova escape from the military base. If it wasn't for the fact that the Sentry Serum worked on him, he would have died helping them escape. And who knows, if he wasn't manipulated by Val, he wouldn't have gotten pushed over the edge and allowed his Void Alter to take over. The more and more I think about it, the more I realize that Bob wasn't really a villain. He's a pretty great guy with a lot of bad luck and baggage. The guy was really different from past Marvel villains, and he has a lot of depth. It'll be interesting to see if the internet deems him as one of the best Marvel villains. The writers for this movie definitely deserve credit for their development of Bob. And then there was Val. For a long time, I really loved this character. She's like a dark Nick Fury in the sense that she's two-faced, a social chameleon, a schemer, and is an all-around pretty crappy person. In this movie, she finally got some depth. We finally got a great understanding as to why she's such a schemer. When the Void took over and Val got to relive her trauma, we got to see a young version of herself in a stressful situation. We saw her father or some sort of father figure telling her to run and hide before getting shot to death. After experiencing something like that, it's no wonder why she developed such massive control problems. Her putting on all these fake fronts can easily be interpreted as her trying to control for a lot of outcomes. While I don't think Val, Sentry, or the Void are as deep as, let's say, Loki, I think it's worth giving credit to the writers on how each villain's trauma shaped them as individuals. Which leads me to my next point. Now, like I said earlier, the writers just didn't say that the villain was mentally ill and used that as a justification for his extreme behavior. There was a lot of depth to Bob. He did what he thought was best and tried his best. He made a sacrifice play and risked dying to help John Walker, Ghost, and Yelena escape. He wasn't just a lunatic causing chaos. The guy had nuances to his character. Now that I think about it, Yelena and Bob had a similar relationship to Batman and his villains. Both of them struggled with mental health issues, had empathy for each other, and tried to help each other get better. Yelena, by the way, got the best character development in this movie. As a consequence of her not facing her trauma, she was left feeling numb and empty. At first, she was hesitant to face her past, but at the film's emotional climax, she decided to face things head on. She stepped into the void and came to terms with the fact that her childhood was weaponized. It was only until after she faced this that she could give herself the love and compassion that she truly needed. And when she did that, she was able to support Bob with his issues. John Walker had a similar journey. Like Yelena, he pushed his problems to the side and invested his time into his work. At first, he didn't want to deal with the fact that his family left him, but after he jumped into the void, I assume he faced his depression head on and helped Bob out. And even though Red Guardian was the comedic relief in this movie, he got pretty great character development. Depressed over thinking that his glory days are behind him, he really drove himself into a funk. The guy was all alone, didn't exercise, and was a borderline hoarder. But after realizing that Yelena needed help, he got his call to action. When he realized that a person he cares for was in danger, he suited up and got back out there. He found his life's mission and purpose once again. Now, not all the Thunderbolts got amazing character development. Bucky already came to terms with his past, so he was more of a supporting character. Ghost didn't really get any character development whatsoever. Who knows, she might have came to terms with her past off screen. And Taskmaster, of course, got killed off at the beginning of the movie. To be honest, I had mixed feelings about Taskmaster getting killed off like that. Like or hate the MCU's portrayal of Taskmaster, but she was a formidable foe in Black Widow. She wasn't exactly easy to kill in that movie. So seeing Taskmaster get killed off like that just felt a bit off. Also, I would have liked it if she got killed off during the emotional climax of the movie. If we got to care about her as a character throughout the film, the audience would have felt her death a lot more. She definitely needed James Gunn's Suicide Squad treatment. I'm still not over Polka Dot Man's death. But on the bright side, this Taskmaster's death leaves the door wide open for a more comic-accurate portrayal of the character. I like Black Widow, but I think a lot of people hated that Taskmaster reveal. Now that the old Taskmaster is gone, the Tony Masters version from the comics can make his MCU debut. Anyways, I went on a tangent there. This movie did a great job handling mental health themes. It didn't romanticize mental health issues. It didn't show any characters giving up or engaging in self-harm. Instead, it showed a variety of characters suffering from mental health issues and rising above their problems, which is a really great thing to see. Sure, there are people out there in the real world who have to live with mental health issues for the rest of their lives, and to those people, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. While the movie has that predictable Disney Marvel happy ending, I think it's nice that it drives home that message that there's at least some good days to look forward to despite what you're going through. If you're struggling with depression like John Walker and Yelena, you can get past it. If you're in a rut like Red Guardian, you can pick yourself back up again. If you're struggling with addiction and a wide variety of mental health issues like Bob, it's possible to find treatment and a solid support group. And if you're from the World War II era, got tortured, kidnapped, and mind-controlled by an evil Nazi group, and lost your arm, and lived as a fugitive in a country you once served to protect, you can eventually break free from that mind control, clear your name by fighting against an alien army, and get a badass metal arm. I love you, Bucky. Don't you ever leave the MCU. All in all, Thunderbolts is really great. It didn't have as many action sequences as Brave New World, but it didn't have to. The movie more than made up for this with its fantastic character work. It was great to see a Marvel story that was actually grounded and gritty. Sure, a lot of the characters were amazing martial artists, and most of them had the super soldier serum in their system, but they were a lot more grounded than the Avengers teams that had a giant green monster and a god. The action sequences were grounded. When a character got hit, it felt like they got hurt, and yeah, everything was just really solid. The only issue that I had with this film is that there was just way too many coincidences. For instance, when John Walker, Yelena, and Bob snuck out of the military base wearing stolen military gear as their disguise, Ghost very quickly found them despite how they snuck past every guard there. And when the Thunderbolts beat the Void after the city was in chaos, they had a press conference immediately after that, right at the center of all the action. I don't know about you, but if a bunch of people started disappearing and buildings started getting torn down, I'd take a minute before getting back to work. But it's pretty par for the course for New York at this point. They had an alien invasion, a plane crash landed on Coney Island, and Thanos wiped out half of all life in the universe. So I guess the people of New York are pretty used to this stuff by now. Anyways, you know it, I know it, Marvel knows it, Kevin Feige knows it. Thunderbolts was a great step in the right direction. And let's be real, the Marvel Disney brand really needed this. Thanks to Thunderbolts, I think it's safe to say that a lot more people are more hyped for Fantastic Four and Avengers Doomsday. But what do you think? Do you think Thunderbolts is a great film? Do you think the MCU is alive once again? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, thanks a million for watching. Please be sure to give a like and subscribe to Reverb Comics so that you do not miss out on our awesome content. Stay groovy.